How I pack my DX Commander Expedition antenna, alternative coaxial cables to Messi and Paoloni, and the age-old debate, Icom versus Yaesu. This time on K8MRD Radio Stuff. What's happening, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Mailbag Monday. My name is Mike. If you have an amateur radio-related question for me, shoot me an email, k8mrd@icloud.com, and you may just have one of your questions featured on an episode of Mailbag Monday. Guys, we've got 3 great questions for you this week. Let's dive right in. This first question is asking about my DX Commander antenna. He's saying, new Patreon subscriber, thank you, by the way. I'm learning a ton and being entertained. We're informative and entertaining here on K8MRD Radio Stuff. Fire videos, thank you. I'm building a DX Commander Expedition and am an avid RVer. We've been to Huntsville State Park a few times. Nice. We like mostly Texas state parks, and I went to my first TS POTA 2 weeks ago at Ray Roberts State Park. That's a separate Texas state POTA program that exists here. So among your stuff on Amazon, is there a carrying bag you like to recommend for carrying my DX Commander Expedition, wires, twisty clamps, spreaders, and whatnots? Don't forget the whatnots. I live in Farmers Branch. No idea where that is. Hope to make it to SPI this summer or Port A. Yeah, no clue. Need to be able to lug a DX Commander around, blah, blah, blah. So Austin, thanks for writing in. Yes, I do have recommendations for exactly this. And they've been in some of my videos, but let's point them out right now. So first and foremost, let's just talk about the mast itself. This is how I travel with the mast. Always keep the base and the wire stuff on there. This never comes off. At the top, I have taken a Jubilee clip, as they call them. Put a little bit of electrical tape around the mast itself, and then I put a Jubilee clip and some paracord. Drilled a hole in the cap. That way, you don't lose your cap. So that's how I carry the mast, and usually I will carry it in my hand. As far as all the other bits and bobs and whatnots, I like to use this bag from Carhartt. This is actually a cooler or like a lunchbox, a lunch bag. You can pick them up. I've got, they're in my Amazon store. I'll leave an affiliate link below. They're about $15. They're really cheap, and I have everything else for the DX Commander Expedition in this bag. Let's take a look. So as we open this up, we can see, let me zoom in. Here, there is everything. So in this top little zipper here, I have our bottom spreader plate that I have marked. This is the top, and then I've got all the bands and stuff marked on there so I know which wire I'm feeding through. I've got all the little doodads or whatnots for actually, like, you know, for holding the 40-meter wire up, all these little hoses and stuff. I've got some, some adapters and things depending on what coax I'm using or whatever. You know, here's, BNC adapter or whatever. So that's what goes in this little zip pouch here. And then I have all of my radiating elements that I put these little beads on so I know which band is, which wire is which for which bands. And I roll them up using the over-under method so they never get tangled. And then I've got all these are the new clamps. Instead of using those metal Jubilee clips, these are the new clamps. I did a video on these a while ago, but these are the plastic things. These are awesome. And I've labeled them all sequentially. So like 1 is the bottom, and then they go up like this is 8. And they all fit it in the middle of all the wires here. So this is all the radiating wires and the counterpoise wires and all these little clips. And then this here is the top spreader plate. I leave all the doingies on there and just roll them up. Fits nicely in here. And then I have my stakes for guying. I've got 3 of these little metals. These are like cheapo. They're like $1 at Walmart, I think. And then I've got my paracord for guying, and that all fits in there. You got to cram it a little bit in true K8MRD fashion, but it all fits in there. Nice, lightweight, and awesome. Carhartt lunch bag. Love this thing. So now you know. Thanks for writing in, and happy RVing. Next, we've got a viewer wanting to know about Coax. He's writing, we all know you love Messi and Paoloni, but what about some alternatives? Do you have any recommendations for affordable, lightweight coax that's easy to lug around in the field? Obviously, I'm not going to carry around a 50-foot length of, I think he means RG213, and there has to be something better than RG8X. So here's a loaded question. You want affordable, you want lightweight, better than RG8X, but not the size of an RG213 or an LMR 400 or something like that. So I love these kinds of questions. I love talking about coax. So in terms of brand, I would lead you directly to ABR Industries, and I should have a 15% off code with them. If you just say type in K at MRD, or you call them and say, hey, I saw K at MRD's videos. He said you had a 15% off deal with them. I know they're reworking their computers, so it might not be online. You might need to give them a call, but that's not what this is about. But you can save some money. ABR Industries makes fantastic coaxial cable. They're a family-owned company. They're actually a woman-owned company right here in Houston, Texas. Their coax is made in America, and they're just super people, super friendly people. So getting to your question, though, it's really not so much a brand-specific thing that you're asking. I mean, to a degree it is. It's more what kind of coax. So starting at the bottom, so when you're saying better, I'm going to assume you're talking about better in terms of performance, because better can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes better means lightweight, and you're willing to make a sacrifice in terms of quality for that lightweight coax. So, for example, here, this is a coax that I use quite a bit. This is RG316, especially when I'm going really lightweight portable. This is 50 feet of coax right here. It weighs nothing. It's probably 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters thick for shorter 50-foot runs like this. For HF frequencies, it's actually not that lossy. It's pretty darn good. But is it as good as any of the other coax we're going to talk about in a minute in terms of just sheer losses in coax? No. But that could be better. So let's talk about some different coaxial cables. You mentioned RG8X. RG8X is a fine coax. There's nothing wrong with it on the HF frequencies. So here is an example of RG8X. Let me see if we can use this camera here. Now, RG8X is just kind of your basic. It's a 6 millimeter thick coaxial cable. You've got your stranded center conductor. It has a foam dielectric and a shield. This is from Tram. It's got a 95% shield on it. Nice and flexible. It's good coax. To go up from here, in terms of performance, this is ABR Industries. They call it ABR 240. It's LMR 240. But they do also market it as RG8X. Okay, so you see RG8X foil and braid 240 UF. This is really LMR 240. You've got a stranded center, LMR 240 UF, Ultraflex. You've got a stranded center, but notice you have a foil shield around a foam dielectric, and then you have this foil braid. So the benefit of that is you get more shielding in this coax, meaning less interference from outside sources. It is exactly the same size, width, everything as RG8X, but it is a slightly better performer. Are you going to notice that difference? Probably not. That is about the only other coax without getting bigger in ABR's repertoire. So we're going to jump back over to Messi and Paoloni. I support both of these companies equally. I like all of their coax. They all have different functions, though. So this right here is Messi and Paoloni's HyperFlex 5. It is a 5 millimeter cable versus a 6 millimeter cable that your LMR 240 is going to be. So it's a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter weight. The benefit of this to RG8X is you're going to have your stranded center conductor, same thing, but you're going to have that foil around the dielectric, which again is going to help reduce any kind of interference that the cable may be able to pick up. It's just better shielded, and then you have your stranded. So I mean, 100% shielded cable but a thinner cable. So better performance than RG8X, and it's thinner. So either the ABR Industries ABR 240 or Messi and Paoloni HyperFlex 5 are both going to be better in terms of performance than RG8X. Now, if we want to go one step higher, you mentioned RG213, which is this. This is ABR's RG213. Compared to, this is RG8X, LMR 240, HyperFlex 5. These are kind of all the same thickness, where your LMR 240s, your RG213s, those are all 10 millimeter cables. The difference is the dielectric, and that's kind of the main difference, is the dielectric and the foil. RG213 doesn't have a foil. It's got like a plastic dielectric. So it has a pretty low velocity factor compared to all these. But if we want the performance of RG213 with kind of size of RG8X and LMR 240, we can go back to Messi and Paoloni and go with their, this is their, the HyperFlex, or excuse me, UltraFlex 7 Sahara. So this is a 7 millimeter cable, very, very similar to your RG8X size. But in terms of performance, this is going to be right on par with, in terms of line loss, RG213. So quite a step up from the RG8X to RG213 in terms of loss. So this actually might be the better one for you. I would say if you're going to look at a better performing cable, you're still, unless you want to lug around, or unless you don't want to lug around this size cable, get some RG316. They sell this at ABR Industries. You can get it all day long. They'll cut you whatever you want. They'll put whatever kind of connector on it, and that goes for all their cables. RG316. You're going to have more loss with this, but that's 50 feet of coax right there. But if you want the best performing cable in the RG8X kind of size, the Messi and Paoloni UltraFlex 7 Sahara is going to be the way to go. So thanks for writing in. Thanks for letting me talk about Coax again. Discount links to Messi and Paoloni and ABR Industries in the description below. Lastly, we have a very polarizing question. This guy's writing, Mike, after using the Icom 7610 and the Yaesu HF radios you have, which one do you prefer better for single sideband? I passed my general and I'm looking for a base station radio to replace the 7100 I am currently using. Thanks for great videos. Thank you for writing in. I appreciate it. So this is very polarizing, man. All I can do is give you my opinion. And I want to preface, my opinion is mine and mine alone, okay? You got to do the research and look at what you like, what things are going to check off the most boxes for you from brand to brand. Now, I'll tell you, I own more Yaesu radios than I own Icom radios. My very first HF radio was a Yaesu FT450. Then I upgraded to the 891, which happens to be sitting right there. But then I went to the 7300, and now I have a 7610, and I have a 705. So I have 3 Icoms, and let's see, I have 3 Yaesu HTs and 1 Yaesu HF radio, but I gave away my FT450 to a young ham years ago, so I don't own that anymore. But I've owned 5 Yaesus and 3 Icoms. In terms of performance, the newer Yaesu radios on the Sherwood report are better. Their receivers are more sensitive. Now, are you ever going to notice that? Probably not. For me, the difference between Yaesu and Icom, one, I find just the screen, the fluidity of the Icom radios much more aesthetically pleasing. When you look at a waterfall of an Icom radio. So, for example, here's the 7610. The waterfall is just very smooth flowing, okay? Where the Yaesus, even the newer ones, they're kind of jittery. They're not as smooth. They've gotten better, but they're still not up to par, in my opinion, to Icom. The biggest reason I am an Icom user over a Yaesu user, for the most part, still use them both, is the menu system. Now, I have ragged on Yaesu publicly over and over and over again, and maybe they've heard because their newer radios, their menu systems are getting better. They still kind of suck, but they're better. I liken it to this. And here's another polarizing comment, but if you're a fan of the channel, you should know that I like to make these polarizing comments. Icom understands user interface like Apple. Yaesu is the cluster of a nightmare that is Android. Now, anyone who's used both of those phones without a real bias is going to know that Android is a little more clunky. Apple has a very polished and refined user interface. When you want something, it's there. It's everything has order and logic, and a lot of thought goes into it. So, for example, when you're using an Icom radio, when you want to go to the menu, you hit menu, you're presented with a list of choices. So let's say, for example, let's go to CW, okay? So now I'm going to hit my menu. I'm going to go, the only things that are here are things that are kind of pertinent to CW. So, for example, here's my keyer. And then I can go and I can edit and set what kind of keyer am I using. Am I using a paddle? Am I using a bug? Am I using a straight key? Very, very simple. Exit out of there. Done. Okay? I don't think you'd be able to do that quickly on a Yaesu radio. You'd have to go through menus and then deeper menus, and then there's no logic. They like to alphabetize things instead of group things together in ways that make sense. So performance-wise, you're going to hear one station just the same as you're going to hear another for the most part. Again, the newer Yaesu radios do perform better on the Sherwood tests, even than the 7610. Is your ear going to know that? I played metal guitar my whole life, so for me, probably not, okay? It's a user interface thing. I am very much pro Icom because of that. It's a much more overall enjoyable experience to use an Icom radio than it is to use a Yaesu radio. Don't even get me started on the menu system and the navigability of the Yaesu FT5DR handheld, or any Yaesu handheld. I have the FT4X, I have the VX7R, and I have the FT5D. All of them are absolute nightmares to program. I can program a Baofeng easier than I can program any of those Yaesu radios. They just don't understand logic. They got a different way of doing things at Yaesu. Great radios, not my favorite thing to navigate the menus. Icom, all of their radios are pretty much the same. You can look at a 7610, a 7300, a 705, even, not that I have a lot of hands-on experience, but the 7851. You're generally going to feel at home because it's like, here's my iPhone 12. If I were to pick up an iPhone 14 today, it'd feel exactly the same. There's no difference. Where you pick up one Android, you pick up another. They're all on different operating versions. Who knows what's going on? That's kind of Yaesu. So anyway, I could go on and on with this. But you asked my opinion. You got it. I'm sure guys are going to post their opinions in the chat. Of course, you are welcome to do that. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching. We will see you again on another episode of K&MRD Radio Stuff. 73, guys.